Hi, I'm Eric Mansfield. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and welcome to Practical Mental Health. So today I'm going to talk about situational awareness. So kind of continuing with the mindfulness exercises. However, situational awareness that I'm going to be talking about mostly today really revolves around safety. Basically, the idea is like you need to observe your surroundings. Situational awareness is being aware of everything that is around you. However, in previous videos I suggested, and there are a lot of people that will say that mindfulness is based on non-judgment, like you don't judge what's going on. When it comes to situational awareness, and especially safety, you have to scrutinize everything, and I want you to observe your surroundings with judgment. You absolutely have to. There's no way around this. So I might be getting ahead of myself right now, but situational awareness, yeah, I mean, we've gone through, if you watched my external mindfulness video, we went through all of the practices of, non-judgment and identifying the objects around you, and it can be very helpful for grounding and all that stuff. However, there are certain situations, circumstances, whatever you want to call it, that is going to command and demand your ability to be able to assess where you are, what you're doing, and making sure that you are in fact safe, that you're comfortable. And so, yeah, this is definitely going to be with judgment. So the first thing is, depending on where you are and what you're doing, is your environment safe? You have to assess for risks and danger. That as you're walking or as you're moving about, you're assessing what is actually in front of you. Is your path safe? If it isn't, then you need to go around, or you need to find another direction, or you need to go back, start from the beginning, whatever it is that, wherever you are. So there's also going to be a blend of observing your thoughts and feelings. Like, what is your brain and body telling you? What is your gut feeling about this? So when it comes to situational awareness, it's not just about your sensory input. This is going to be also your thoughts and feelings. Is there danger? Is your amygdala, is your warning system going off and saying danger, danger? What is it about the environment that might be causing that? The one scenario that I want to go over today is something that I would suggest that probably most people do these days, and that's driving. So driving is definitely going to be a blend of internal and external mindfulness. So you need to observe your own vehicle. If you need to check your tires. I mean, I don't know if most people aren't trained in this way, but like technically, I don't have a CDL license, but there was a time when I was kind of looking at it and thinking about doing that. And some of the safety regulations was that anytime anybody gets into a piece of heavy equipment, you have to do a walk around. You have to observe and you have to inspect the vehicle that you're getting ready to operate. That should be absolutely true with your own car. Honestly, you need to look at it. You need to check the oil. You need to check to make sure that the fluid levels are up there. Don't just rely on warning lights. Check to make sure that your tires are inflated properly. I have actually seen people driving cars where one of their tires was all out of balance and the whole tire is bouncing. And I'm scratching my head going, do they even notice? Like, how can you not notice that? Well, one way you could probably not notice that is if you've got the radio turned up all the way, or if you really don't even know what that vibration might be. Some people might mistake it for thinking of, well, something's wrong with my engine, I need to take it in. But the thing is that, even if you did a walk around, you're not going to know if one of your tires is out of balance. But what you can do is look at the tread. Do you have enough tread on your tire? That's the reason for regular maintenance also, taking your car in, like not just for an oil change, but getting all of the safety equipment checked, your brakes, making sure that the fluid, your oil, just everything is within normal range, operating ranges. So when you're observing your vehicle while you're in it, you need to be aware of like, are there any strange sounds? And here's the thing, there are a lot of people that I've met who they will crank up the radio. I'm guilty of that. However, you do need to drive your car without the radio on. And the reason being is you need to get used to what its normal sound is. When it's functioning properly, you need to know what that sound is, and you need to get used to it. That way, if something is wrong with your car, you'll kind of be able to pick up on it. Hopefully not when your radio is blasting away. There was a time when I had a vehicle that I knew its normal sounds, and I had the radio cranked up, and I was, heading to wherever I was heading, listening to the radio, and then at some point there was a pause, or maybe I stopped at a stoplight and was changing the stations, or somehow I turned the radio down. And that's when I noticed the oddball sound and was like, oh, wow, that doesn't sound right. Like, okay, yeah, I need to take my car into the shop, find out what's going on. And then worst case scenario too is like, are there any strange smells? That, that's a little bit more difficult, but if you smell smoke, man, pull over and stop the car, get out and see if you can figure out if there's fire or something to that effect. All right, so while you're driving, so observing your vehicle, being aware of what's going on with your own car. You need to also observe the road ahead while you're driving. You need to be aware of what direction your car is moving, how it's moving, what's in your path. Is there, you don't want to hit potholes. That definitely can damage your vehicle, throws the front end out of alignment. It can just lead to all kinds of problems. But also noticing, are your road conditions? Is it wet? Is it icy? Sometimes just wet roads. If you're going too fast, it doesn't take much. If you're out and about and you're driving in the rain, definitely slow it down. Be safe about that. Don't think, oh yeah, my car can handle it, until it doesn't handle it. Because once you lose control, well, you're just pretty much along for the ride. And all you can do is hope that it doesn't end bad. So, the other thing too is like when you're observing the road ahead, you need to also be aware of other drivers, everybody around you. You need to be aware of the car in front of you, next to you, one side or the other, or both, depending on how many lanes you're on the highway or whatever. You need to be watching your rear view mirror to see who's behind you. Not who's behind you, but, are they following too close? Are they right up against your bumper? Then, to the left and right, you have blind spots. You have to be aware of those things. You also have to be aware of whether or not you're in somebody else's blind spot. I can't tell you how many times I have actually not been conscious of that and found myself in somebody else's blind spot, and they start to merge into the lane that I'm already in. It's quite a startling thing to have to honk a horn at somebody and then see the horror on their face when they look back and notice that, oh my God, you're there. So, that can be a definite wake-up call. But I haven't gotten into an accident as a result of that. But the thing is that whenever, as far as your own awareness, when you are driving and for safety purposes, pay attention to where the front end of your vehicle is in relation to the tail end or the trunk of the vehicle in front of you, maybe even in another lane. Don't get into somebody else's blind spot. If you maintain some distance between the front of your car and the rear of their car, even if they do pull off or pull into your lane, hopefully the idea is that they won't hit you and cause an accident. And absolutely know the blind spots in your car. You have to make, in mine, I know where my blind spots are, and I know that when I'm getting ready to change lanes to perhaps the left, I absolutely have to lean forward and look at the rearview mirror as well as looking over my shoulder. Too many times I've experienced where I've done that and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, where'd you come from? Same thing with the right side. It's always look over your shoulder, look through the main rear window, not rear window, rear view mirror, side mirror. If you don't see anything, still look. Turn your head. Put eyes on the space where a car might be. Don't just rely on the mirrors. So another mindfulness piece of situational awareness, especially with regards to driving, you have to observe yourself. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Are you tired? Do you have heavy eyelids? Being tired is as dangerous as driving drunk, according to so-called statistics, and I believe it. There's a lot of things that you can do to try to keep yourself awake. And you need to be aware of this, because if you're tired, you're putting yourself and everybody else in danger. All it takes is for you to accidentally close your eyes, even for a few seconds. And that could mean the difference between waking up still behind the wheel of a vehicle or waking up in a hospital or not waking up at all. Sorry to be harsh, but that's the cold truth. That's just the way it is. So I've heard so many different things that people say that could be effective. Turning up the music, yeah, maybe that works. Maybe if it works for you, awesome, hopefully. But the idea is that if you're tired, your eyes are getting heavy. Music isn't going to prevent that. Sticking your hand out the window, that might work for a short period of time, but eventually your arm's going to get tired. The one thing that I have found that helps is chewing gum. That, for me, that really works. I always keep a pack of gum in my car. I haven't had any reason to go on long drives here recently, but when I am on a long drive and I do feel tired, and I experienced this when I was younger, chewing gum, I don't understand what it is. Maybe it was the spearmint or peppermint. But the idea was that clenching of the jaw in a rhythmical fashion, just chewing, for whatever reason, took away the tiredness and the heaviness in my eyes. So if you're the kind of person that gets tired easy, or if you're working late nights and you have to drive home, or if you have a long drive home at the end of the day and you're feeling really tired and exhausted, like most people probably do at the end of a long day, chew gum. Try it, see if it works. So another aspect of observing yourself, not just tiredness, but are you bored? That can lead to tiredness. But however, if you are bored and you don't know what to do with yourself, that leads to messing around with the radio, potentially checking your phone or looking at your phone. Those are absolute no-nos. Do not do it. I've almost gotten into an accident simply for no other reason than looking down to change the channel on my radio. And then, it was only like 2-3 seconds, I guess. And when I looked up, the car in front of me was hitting the brakes pretty hard because maybe they weren't paying attention, but all of a sudden traffic was backed up and I pretty much had to stand on the brakes so that I didn't run into the person in front of me. Luckily for me, there wasn't anybody behind me. So yeah, if you find yourself bored, try to find something else. Maybe even go through the whole 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or identifying objects, or play games with yourself as far as looking for certain objects. Or was it some of the games I've heard that people will play with their kids is, I Spy or something like that. You can probably play that game with yourself in a sense. Try to count off as many yellow vehicles as you can find, or as many red, or identify as many cars that are the same brand as yours and see how many you count along the way. Anything to try to keep your mind occupied, but still maintaining focus on the road in front of you and your driving and what's around you. Something else that might be considered is, are you tense? Are you fearful? I have seen people who they look like they're fearful. They look like they're tense. They're like really hanging on to their steering wheel for dear life. And I have passed people that were like, they looked like they were just like afraid for their life just being in a car and behind the wheel. That to me is scary on my end. Like, if that person is that tense, if you're that tense, how good is your reaction time? That's the problem with being tense. Like, you want to try to be alert, but you also want to be relaxed while you're driving a car. What about anger? That's a big one. Road rage over what? Because the way other people are driving, or because you're in a hurry, you're late, but everybody else is in your way. Like, how did you come to that conclusion to start with? And are you actually going to use your vehicle as a weapon? I would hope not. But the thing is, not necessarily that you're using it as a weapon, but just veering through traffic and being unsafe. Here lately, I've been seeing people who are riding motorcycles squeezing in between two cars that are side by side doing 60 miles an hour. And the only thing that I can think of is the person on the motorcycle. I hope they get to their destination, but if they keep doing that, there's a potential that it is not going to end well for them. Now, if, say, for instance, you've got somebody that's tailgating you, or somebody that cut you off, or something to that effect, that's the thing. You need to be mindful of that, because no matter what anybody else is doing on the road, let it go. There's no point in getting angry over what anybody else is doing or not doing. All you need to be concerned with is getting to your destination safely. The moment that you go into a state of road rage, there's the potential that I've seen so many videos of people, shooting in front of somebody that are pissed off and then brake checking them. So you're going to do what? Make your car into a weapon? Like, what if the other vehicle wins and you end up in a ditch or upside down, or, again, sorry to be harsh, you end up dead? Seriously. Yeah, so I'll probably do another video on road rage, just to kind of figure out, try to get some ideas of how to manage that. That kind of falls into the anger category. All right, so one other thing that kind of pops up in my mind with being able to observe yourself with regards to driving is, are you on autopilot? I've done it a lot. There have been times where I just get to thinking about something, and usually it's when it's smooth sailing, but that can be dangerous too, because there have been times where I've driven to wherever I'm going. Usually if it's rush hour traffic, I'm way more alert. I am like fully aware of all the cars and everybody around me. I'm like really hyper paying attention with regards to all that, because I don't want to just trail off. But there have been times where, like later in the evenings, when there's nobody in front of me, nobody's around me, and it's just the road and the sound of the motor, the sound of the tires, all that can be trance-inducing, so to speak. And if you get lost in your own thoughts, you're still driving, you might be aware of guiding the vehicle, but the idea of autopilot is kind of subconscious. And there have been times where I've gone from point A to point B. I get to point B and was like, wait a minute, how did I get here? And it's just, I know that I was driving well, but I was thinking of something else. I was so into the thought of what I was thinking about that that space of time seemed to disappear. can't say that I've ever heard of anybody running off the road or having an accident because they were on autopilot, but I mean, still, just in case. I mean, be aware of where your thoughts and your feelings are with regards to while you're driving. You need to be fully conscious of what you're doing. You need to be fully conscious of the road in front of you, the people in front of you, behind you, around you, everything. And you need to be aware of your car and what it's doing. So that's just an idea. I use driving as a example because I think probably the majority of people probably drive a car, or you're going to drive a car at some point in your life. And if you don't, this can actually be applied. The whole situational awareness and being safe can be applied to anything that you're doing. I mean, even cooking in your own kitchen. Like, you need to be aware of where things are and not accidentally putting a cloth towel or something on a burner that is actually on. I mean, that can start a fire. You need to be aware of, oil splatter, depending on what kind of stove you're using. If you put stuff into the oven, definitely have a timer set, because if you forget about that and your mind goes somewhere else, if it's supposed to be in there for 20 minutes and ends up being in there for hours, it could combust and start a fire. Hopefully the idea is that if you start a fire in your oven, it's contained. The most that you'll have to deal with is just a lot of smoke and your smoke detector going off. But you still need to be aware. You need to be situationally aware of whatever it is that you're doing. And definitely be safe. I come from construction, and I cannot stress enough the idea of safety on a job site. If you're construction workers, by all means, observe your tools. Make sure that they are all in working order, proper working order. Your safety equipment, don't question it. If you have questions about it, reject it. Get another one. Cough up the money. It's better safe than sorry, honestly. I've heard of too many people having accidents and dying because, for whatever reason, they thought it can't happen to them, or they felt like, oh, well, yeah, it'll be okay. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. That is nonsense. Don't ever assume everything's going to be okay. Make it okay, especially with safety equipment. If you're on a job site, you definitely absolutely need to be 100% situationally aware of what is going on around you. If anybody else is doing anything, or if you got people working overhead, you have to have a hard hat, and you need to be aware of where you are in relation to those people, because things fall, literally drop out of the sky, so to speak. And if a hammer drops on your head from any height, you're not going to have a good day. That is for sure. So those are just some things to keep in mind. That situational awareness, on the base level, just being aware of your surroundings. But I really want you to practice situational awareness with regards to safety. Make sure that you're safe. If you have any questions about whether or not even going in a direction where you might see a group of people who you're not familiar with, and if your gut says, yeah, don't go that way, go around, find a different route. Make sure that you are safe. Sometimes your gut might be wrong, and the people that you're steering away from may be really nice people. On the other hand, they may not be. All right, so I'm going to end that here. I hope that got your mind started as far as feeding you good information. So hopefully you can exercise your mind with regards to situational awareness and being safe. So having said that, please be safe out there. I hope you have a great day. I wish for you a wonderful life, and I love you all. It's a brotherly love. Take care.